Hello, my name is Yana. I make things, and today I want to talk about memory keeping. It's a bit of a theme for me this year. This year kind of started from my venture into memory keeping, and it continues. I'm discovering things that should be obvious to somebody who is my age, but I thought that if it's not obvious for me at 40 years old, maybe somebody else needs to hear this because it's not as obvious as it should be, in my opinion. So I'm going to start at a different place. I was trying to make another vlog. I'm not good at vlogging yet. I think that I'm going to be slowly improving, but I filmed a lot on Saturday and Sunday. Trust me, it's relevant. But then I kind of stopped and didn't film anything. And I was editing the footage today, and I have some interesting footage of big machinery clearing snow and people clearing snow in the streets of Moscow. I think it's very interesting. I have some views of an empty food hall. I went there on Saturday morning. I'm not sure if it was empty because it was relatively early and people just weren't awake yet, or it's because nobody can afford to eat out anymore. I'm not sure which one, but it was fun. And then the next day on Sunday, I went to my Irish pub where I used to work, and I've decided to update a blackboard in there because that's the kind of thing I do. And St. Patrick's Day is approaching, and they didn't have any information about that on the blackboard, so I took matters into my hands and started the countdown for St. Patrick's Day. Here's why it's a little bit interesting. I was thinking about all the things that I did during the week to put them kind of in a vlog. It wasn't going to be a real vlog, but I was going to mention things I did, like I put a quilt on the wall using some like nail pins. I saw this trick on the internet, and I've decided that it's a brilliant idea, and I wanted to put a quilt up onto a wall. I'm not sure if it's going to be visible here. One of those. You can just gently tap them into the wall and it's going to hold a quilt. Who knew? So I was putting together this video. I completely forgot that I updated the blackboard in a pub. It just escaped my memory, and that's because my memory is terrible. I don't remember anything. I don't even remember to follow a routine. I cannot have a routine. It's always nothing is automatic in this house. Everything is a decision. So yeah, my memory is terrible, and that's what we're going to be talking about, because I think that it's interesting. I'm not very good at Dear Diary type of journaling. I used to be better at that, but something changed. I don't know what happened. And now it's very difficult for me to have a practice of that sort. In 2024, on my birthday, I started an insert for my traveler's notebook. It's a diary, and I had it like, I called it a public diary because nothing in this insert is really very personal. I started it about the same time when I started thinking about the YouTube channel. It's mostly writing, but in March of last year I got into a hospital and I just stopped my journaling practice for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe I just stopped my paper bullet journal practice. I switched to digital, and that's why the diary stopped, and I wanted to go back to it, but I couldn't because there was a gap, and the gap was becoming bigger and bigger the longer I didn't make any writing. So what I did is on the 3rd of February this year, I sat down, I went through my photos on my phone, and I wrote a list of things that happened during the year. I'm probably missing a lot of things, but it was a list that I could work with. I thought that I'm going to just make a bullet point list of things that I did, things that happened, and maybe add some photographs. It was a profound experience. It took less than an hour, but now I had some kind of recording of all the things that kind of stuck. And it's a lot more than I could just remember from the top of my head, because my memory is so bad, and because everything just mushes together when, especially because I lived in a forest where every day is more or less the same. I didn't go anywhere, I didn't see anybody. It was very samey all day. So I thought that the whole year of 2025 was very uneventful, and these days an uneventful year is a good thing. But I actually did a couple things. Like I made a couple toys, I made a couple quilt tops, I went to Tambov, and yeah, I did some things. I had a YouTube channel, so it feels like just doing this exercise, sitting down to write down all the things that I did during the year. It was very, very interesting. Not only I went through my photo album and made a list of things that I did to put in my diary, I also went through and got some prints made. I have some photographs. I can stick them in my diary and make it interesting and colorful and kind of a project. It's 5 by 7 centimeters. It's about the same size that a printer like this would print. I have one of those, but it's a bit expensive to print a lot of photographs on this thing. Like, it's fine if you need to make like 5 photos for your travel journal or something, but I printed 60 photographs. It's too much. I'm not going to use all of them, but my options were like 20 or 40 or 60, and I had 50, so I printed everything. Now I have something to choose from. And I'm going to sit down and go through this list and do a diary, and from that point I'm going to be able to continue with my diary, my daily diary entries, or daily-ish, because I'm not beating myself up too much if I don't, do daily entries. But it should be obvious for somebody at 40 years old that doing a yearly review is interesting, but I never did them, I don't think. And maybe I did try it and I was trying to go too deep, like, oh, I became a different person, I transformed. I dug deep because it never occurred to me that the best thing I can do is just to make a list of practical things that I did. And maybe in my previous life, I just didn't have a lot of things to show for myself. I went to work many days and I did some work projects. Work projects don't count. They're somebody else's achievement. So I always saw the posts on Facebook and they would say, this year at the end of the year, or at somebody's birthday. Some people do it on a birthday. And they sit down and they make a list of their achievements, of events, and something to look back on. And I always saw it as very pretentious and useless. But now, when I sat down with the intention of just making sure that I don't forget stuff, it's a completely different practice, and it's suddenly very meaningful. So that's my project for the next week, probably, just to sit down and do my diary for the last year, because it's almost a year, and today isn't the 3rd of February when I made the list. Today is the 1st of March, but I'm going to get it done. The other thing, in terms of memory keeping, bad memory, and kind of feeling better about myself, that I've discovered, it was connected to this thing, is that I started to experiment with interstitial journaling, and it didn't work for me because I'm too messy and unorganized to do that. But I've started, when I do my daily page in Obsidian or when I do my daily page in my bullet journal, I've started to write down things that I actually did. Because often what I end up with is at the beginning of the day, I make a list of things that I want to do, and I'm not even fooling myself that I'm going to get most of them done. I'm hoping that I'm going to get some of them done. But it often happens that life drags me into a completely different direction. I end up doing other things. And because my memory is so bad, I don't remember what those things are, even on the day when this happens. So in the evening, I sometimes cannot remember what I did. The next day, probably not a chance that I'm going to figure out what I did all day. So I started, if I can remember to do so, I started to write down the things that I did as I do them. And maybe in the evening, if I can remember to do an evening review, I can write down all the things. If I can remember to do a weekly review, I can sit down and think like, oh yeah, I went there, I did that, to give myself kind of a picture of things that happened. Because in my head, a week goes by, I sit down on a Sunday, and I cannot figure out what I did all week, and it makes me feel useless. Like I'm wasting my time, I don't do anything, I'm not achieving the goals that I set up for myself, and I don't know why. And now I help myself to have a recording of things that I actually did. And each time when I do a weekly review, it makes me feel different. It's very powerful. And those things should be obvious for somebody who is 40 years old, but they aren't. And that's the video. I hope that it was a little bit useful, at least somewhat useful. I hope that you like the big machinery clearing snow in Moscow. And I'm going to leave you with some footage of the doggies. And I'll see you probably next week, hopefully next week, unless the Iron Curtain falls down. And then, oh well.